All right. Uh, we left off at the end of 58, right?
Right.
And you were driving, you'd started driving the battalion commander.
I started in
Uh,
July. I started when we got back, it was November.
right,
I started driving when we got back from Lebanon.
right,
I got to make some corrections about the 3rd Cav um, tanks.
okay,
They weren't M23s, they were M24s.
okay,
And the cannon on the tank was not a 76 millimeter, 75 millimeter. Had all the numbers right, but
yeah,
just in the wrong spots.
okay,
Let's remember him. I'm trying to remember back 70 years.
right, right,
So sometimes it gets a little different.
yeah. And so, what else were you doing in terms of your duties at this time? Besides, I mean, you were driving. I assume he didn't drive all day long.
No, there'd be many days that he never left his office. He worked in his office.
Right,
There were, I think the battalion had 4 trucking companies. I don't remember where they're all located. 2 of them were located on Sheridan Concern, the 518th,
right,
which I'd been in and out, and the 592nd, which I went to Lebanon with. They were both on the same concern. I don't know where the other 2 trucking companies were. And periodically we'd visit them.
right,
And once in a while he'd have to go to Stuttgart for a commander's meeting, which was the headquarters of, I believe 7th Army was at Stuttgart. May have been Heidelberg, I'm not sure at that time.
right.
But we'd have to drive to Stuttgart once in a while.
Okay,
But generally, I stayed in the office. I did the maintenance on the colonel's car,
right,
just like I did the maintenance on the truck. It had periodic oil changes and that type of thing. I'd take it to the motor pool, one of the trucking company motor pool, and
right.
pull the maintenance on it. And the rest of the time I worked for the sergeant major, whatever he wanted done.
Like clerical stuff,
Yeah,
or
clerical, whatever. Whatever he needed to get done, I'd go do for him.
all right. And so, how long was this? Did this occur from when to when?
Well, I said I got back from Lebanon in November, I believe it was November, and I was getting ready to rotate. I spent 4 years. At that time, you're not allowed to spend 4 years in Germany. So in July, August time period was my 4-year period. So I was getting ready to rotate back to the United States. And the
July
middle
of 59.
nine
So coming up,
coming up was going to rotate.
right?
Um, and I did this until it was time for me to leave.
Till it was time to leave Germany.
Till it was time to leave Germany, right?
All right. And then, so uh, anything going on family wise from November of 58 to July, August of 59?
No, pretty much. We had to get another apartment closer to the concern. We did that, and they were pretty much getting prepared to leave, which your mother wasn't happy about. She's 18 years old, 59. She's going to turn 19, or she turns 19 when we're about to leave Germany.
Right.
And she'd spent her entire life in Lakehausen, Germany, so
Right.
she wasn't real thrilled about leaving Germany. But we had to do what we had to do. I was committed to go where I was supposed to go.
Right. Well,
And,
you had re-enlisted, right?
well, I'd re-enlisted because Mom wanted me to be able to go back to Germany and be stationed in Germany.
Right.
I had never intended to stay in the military. But of course, life things happened, and
Right.
when they did, I decided I could take the Army for however long I needed to.
Right.
I had already done close to 4 years now.
Right.
And I said, okay, we'll stay. And so I re-enlisted. And I can't remember if I re-enlisted for 3 years or 6 years. You got a bonus. And of course, we talked a little bit about pay
Right.
the other day. You didn't get much. So a bonus would have been a beneficial money in our pocket.
So when you say bonus, what are we talking about?
I don't remember. I think it's $500-600 somewhere in that neighborhood, which was a ton of money
Back then.
in 1959, especially for somebody who's making less than $100 a month
Right.
Pay.
Right.
We had some benefits for housing and stuff, but for pay, I was making $100, so I might have got $100 a year, $200 a year. I don't recall
Right.
what it was when I reenlisted.
Right. So we're in the summer now of '59,
Yeah, I mean, everything was
August.
was. We left. We came home in July. We came back to the States in July
Of
of
1959.
1959. Nothing really happened from a military perspective. I wasn't training. I was actually doing clerical work probably the majority of the time,
Right.
or step and fetch it stuff for the sergeant major.
Right.
Uh, and so, and again, just getting ready to say goodbye to everybody from Mom's family.
Right.
And basically, we just got ready to go. And when we left, I think we left Augsburg in the evening. We got on the train and took the train from Augsburg right to the Frankfurt airport. Got off the train and went to I believe they were called Continental aircraft. They were 4-engine propeller aircraft.
Right.
And we went right
Constellation.
to the Constellation, yeah. I think that's what they were called. And then we went right to the aircraft and boarded the aircraft. And now we had to go through a lot of stuff to get ready for that. We had to get you a born in Germany authorization. They had to get you a passport. You look like Winston Churchill on your passport picture. Mom had to have her passport. I mean, she didn't have a passport and she had to get one.
Right.
And so we had to do all the prep work so we could go to the United States. And then we left. We got on the plane. It was an 18-hour plane ride from Frankfurt, Germany to LaGuardia Airport in New York. And we landed in LaGuardia. It was probably around noon or something.
Right.
I don't remember the day. I just remember we got off the plane. It was hot. It was humid,
Right.
like the Northeast is.
Right.
Mom got off the plane about 20 minutes later. She was telling me she wanted to go back home.
So you want to go back to Germany?
Yeah, she wanted to go back to Germany. And we just had the conversation that wasn't going to happen for
Right.
a while. And then we got a connection flight to Pittsburgh. Now, in the interim, my mother had done some maneuvering and gotten me stationed in Pittsburgh.
How'd she do that?
Through the congressman, local congressman in Pittsburgh. And I think my uncles had a little bit of pull with them because they were pretty big businessmen doing a lot of stuff in the greater Pittsburgh area.
Right.
So I think they had access to get to them where you may never have had you not had access.
So she talked to him and he got you stationed in Pittsburgh.
I don't know what the procedure was, but we got stationed in Pittsburgh. And so we lived in North Versailles. We were living with Pete, my stepfather, and my mother. And we were the duty station was South Park. It was in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And that was probably 15 miles, 20 miles from East McKeesport. And so I had a car.
Right.
We had shipped a car. I picked my car up from New York. About 2 weeks after we got home, I had to go back to New York and pick up my car and drive it back to Pittsburgh. And then I had a car to drive back and forth to work.
And so what did you do? So what, in terms of duties, what did you do when you got to the States, when you got to
My
Pittsburgh?
MOS, military occupation skill, was still truck driver.
Right.
And so when I got to Pittsburgh, I was truck driver. I can't remember. I didn't do it long. About 3 or 4 weeks, I got called to the personnel office and was told that there was a lieutenant that wanted to talk to me about maybe changing jobs. The lieutenant was named Verdon. Verdon, I believe was his name. And he had grown up in Pittsburgh also and graduated from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. Wow. Anyway, he had looked through my records. He had the personnel guys go through records of people like truck drivers or really didn't have a skill. You're right. A truck driver, but it wasn't like combat skill. And he was looking for specific people to go man a control center that controlled air defense missile sites around the Pittsburgh area. All the major cities at that time in the late 50s, mid to late 50s, early 60s, had missile batteries stationed around the city to, if we're invaded,
Right.
they could shoot planes down. There were two types of missile batteries. One was Ajax, which was high explosive weaponry, and the other one was the Hercules, which was it had a nuclear warhead mounted on it. And there was a control center that controlled the firing and all the activities that were going on. And he was looking for people to man that control center.
Right.
So they had gone through my records, and apparently my aptitude scores were fairly high. And he wanted to know if I was interested in being in the control center as opposed to driving a truck, since I appeared to have the intellect to go in there and learn all the missile
Right.
jargon and requirements to be somebody who controlled a battery, or at least help control a battery. And I said, yeah, I wanted to do something different other than to drive a truck for the rest of my life. So I said, yeah, I'd do that. So I moved, didn't change that. I was still in
Right.
South Park. So I went to work in the control center at South Park and went into a training program where they were training me all of the jargon and requirements that we needed to do to run the control center.
Right.
And you start learning new languages, missile tracking radar, MTR, target tracking radar, TTR, acquisition radar, squawking friend or foe, identification friend or foe. So you're learning a lot of stuff
Right.
about, and then we have exercises. They have airplanes flying in the sky, going in different directions. We'd identify them, the batteries would identify them, and we'd have an exercise. And the control room itself had a big plexiglass board, clear plexiglass board.
Right.
And part of the team managed it was on radars with the batteries, and another part of the team was plotting the aircraft that were being flown in the exercise.
Right.
So you had to learn to write backwards. So when you wrote on the plex board in the back of it, you could read it in the front of the board.
Have you kept that skill up?
No. And there'd be a group of guys that would be reading you the coordinates
Right.
of the aircraft. They'd have radars, and they'd be reading the coordinates and talking to you on headphones, and you're plotting the coordinates in the back of the board. So you had to read the coordinates backwards and do things like that. It was interesting. It was fun, and
Right.
you learned a lot. You learn a lot about communications, electronics, and different things that you needed to do to be part of that team.
And you said, I think when we talked, you said that was shift work.
Yeah, we did. I believe the shifts were 12 on and 24 off. You would work 12 hours, and then you'd be
Right.
off 24 hours, and you come back and work 12 hours. And we did that. That was 1959. And Pittsburgh had been selected, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Pittsburgh, a lot of the cities were going to put in a new control center. It was called a Missile Master.
Right.
And there would be a lot more electronics, and you wouldn't have to go behind plexiglass boards, and there'd actually be a screen mounted in the middle of the control room where you could see they'd be plotted by electronics and not by a human being.
Right.
And they would get the coordinates from the radar that was giving you the coordinates, and they just plot the information. And I believe in 1960 we went to school in Florida. I think it was Orlando, Florida. We went to Missile Master School. So we went down there and learned how to operate the equipment in the Missile Master,
Right.
which was a new control center.
What was your rank here?
I made E2. I'm sorry, I made E4 when I got back from Lebanon in '58.
Right.
Somewhere in late '59, early '60, I made E5. So it took me 3 years, actually 3.5 years, to go from private to corporal or E4.
Right.
Took me roughly another year or a year and a half to make E5. So what am I now in 60? I'm 5 years into my military career,
Right.
and I made E5.
All right. I've got the thing here. Your uncles built houses around the Pittsburgh area.
Right,
At some point that changed, right?
right. I'm not sure. Again, there was a period of time after World War II when they started building houses. After Korea, it was a booming business.
Right.
And like I said, I think they built at least 1,000, maybe a couple of thousand homes in the Pittsburgh area. Where I live with my aunt, the entire, as far as you could see, were houses they had built.
Right.
In Irwin, where I'd moved after Swissvale, again, this entire, wherever you could see, they had built houses there. And there were several other locations where they had done the same thing. So I don't know how many houses they built, but they built a considerable number of houses. But and I'm not sure when the economy did a nosedive like 2008 or 1988, but the economy did a nosedive sometime in the late 50s.
Right.
And I think they instead of losing more than they had lost, they changed their business model and started making bow and arrows, downsized significantly
Right.
because they had fleets of trucks and
Right.
they had a lumber yard where they actually pre-framed houses, so they
Right.
took them out and the frames were already done. Those things, so they downsized all that. They took the lumber yard and they made it the arrow factory, the bow and arrow factory.
Right.
So they're making bows and arrows. And it was Blackhawk was the name of the company. Blackhawk arrows, Blackhawk.
Right. My notes here say something about that in the spring of 1960, Mom went back to Germany.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Okay. So we got through 59. We got back to the United States.
Right.
Got settled. In the end of 1959, we got a house closer to where I was stationed, so it was only like 15-minute drive for me, and it was in Carnegie,
Right.
Pennsylvania, right almost in downtown Pittsburgh. And so we moved into the house, and we were settled in the house. And it was at the end of 1959. No, I got it wrong, Jim. We moved there. We're still staying with my mom and Pete. And in early 1960, she got a letter or something from her mom saying her dad was real sick. So she went back to Germany for, I think she stayed 6 or 8 weeks, and he got better.
Right.
And you went with her.
Okay.
And I mean, that was just a period of time that you guys had gone. And when she came back, and we got our own house in Carnegie. That's when we went and got our house in Carnegie.
Anything go on in 1960 then? Or were you just working in the?
Well, they had moved to the Missile Master. We had left South Park
Right.
and gone to the Missile Master, which was close to the greater Pittsburgh airport.
Right.
And we had, we're just getting settled down in our house. And again, from a work perspective, I was on shift work. We'd go train a lot.
So that's what you did for all of 1960.
Yeah, well, we had moved from the old control center in South
Right.
Park to the new Missile Master, and training up, try to get everybody up to speed. And then I got orders that I was going to Korea. But at the end of 1960, at that period of time, you didn't have. I mean, not many Germans had telephones. So Mom never really communicated with her mom via telephone.
Right.
Was through letters.
Right.
Like we had talked about earlier.
Right.
There's no cell phones. And anyway, I think we were going think it was around New Year's or right after Christmas. It was around New Year's. We were going. She got a letter from her mom. She didn't open it. She was going to read it on her way from Carnegie to East McKeesport. And when she opened the letter, her dad had died. And her dad had died on 12/26.
Right.
And coincidentally, Utah, your youngest sister,
Right.
was born on 12/26.
Right.
And John Peter, one of our grandsons, was born on 12/26. So that was a unique period of time. But I mean, through 60, the hard part from a family perspective was Opa got sick and then he passed away.
Right. And so you're still an E5 at the end of 1960.
I'm still in E5, yeah.
All right.